we are going to start using classes to style an HTML document, and we're going to use embedded CSS instead of a style sheet. So remember, embedded CSS is when you add CSS straight into your HTML document, not in line with the specific, so inline CSS is when you add just little snippets of CSS and specific tags, but embedded is when we add style tags into our heading of our document, and we use it that way. So we're going to do that. To start this lab, I'm going to have you start by downloading the Lab 9 materials zip folder, and then just go ahead and unzip that, and go ahead and open our HTML document in Visual Studio Code. So it'll look something like this. Right now the page looks like this. Our goal is to get it to look like this, so we're just going to follow the instructions to recreate this, basically. So the first thing that we want to do is to add those style tags into the head of our document. So just this right here, the style type equals text/CSS, and then the closing style tags. We want to go ahead and add that straight into our heading. So inside the head tags. And then everything that we write CSS wise for this document is just going to go in between these style tags. Alright? Okay. So the first thing that we want to do, and I'm just going to go around this image to sort of add these different attributes. So let's see, right now we don't even have our image, so I'm going to go ahead and add this image in real quick. And we want this image after our top headline but before this subheading. So in our document, and this is going to be within the body, so we'll find that. And then remember, I said I want it to be after my initial H1 before my subheading, which is this one here. So here I'm going to go ahead and add my image. So make an image tag, source equals, and then if we look at our folder, we're looking for tv.jpg. Alright, let's save that. Go ahead and see what it looks like now. Perfect. And now we want to add some CSS for this image. So it says it has a 20 pixel padding. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go up to my top in between those style tags, or I'm going to write this embedded CSS, and I'm going to write image equals, oh, not equals, sorry, do the curly brackets. So we're targeting the image, and then we're going to say padding 20 pixels. Alright. We'll refresh that, and you can see it kind of gave it that nice little padding on the edge. Alright. The next thing we want to do is, it says that our headline is an H1. Okay, that's already correct. And then we're inheriting the font from the body text, which is Verdana 0.8 EM with a width of 760 pixels. So that means we want to actually target the body and then change the attributes there. So here, again, in between the style tags, we're going to say body. And then we want the font family to be Verdana. Font size is 0.8 EM. And then width of 760 pixels. Alright, now let's take a look at that. Alright, perfect. So now we have changed our font and font size, and we've also made the max width much smaller so that it's not going too far across my screen. Alright, let's see. So we've got this one, this one. Next we want to make a subhead class so that we can adjust this one specifically a little different than the rest of the body text. So I'm going to add a class to this line here, and I'm just going to name it .subhead. So I'm going to go find that line. Here it is right here. And then I'm going to go class equals, and then I'm going to name it subhead. And now I can target that class in my styles. go dot subhead. And again, we want it to be, well, font family's already Verdana, so we don't really need to change that, but let's change the font size to 1.1 EM, and then we want the color to be, yeah, all 6s. Alright. Perfect, that looks great. Alright, so then the next thing is going to be this little pull quote here. So this is, a pull quote is just a fancy way of talking about kind of pulling a quote or a paragraph out of a document to kind of draw extra attention to it. So we want to draw extra attention to one of the paragraphs in here. And what we're going to do is give it these styling things, but first we're going to create a class. And I'm actually going to make all of this within a div, I think. So, and then this here is actually also an image that we want to insert. So what I'm going to do is actually find where this paragraph is. So in my HTML, looks like it starts right here. This one here, it's really just a matter of where your living takes place. And I'm actually going to create a div surrounding that paragraph. And then before the paragraph starts, I'm going to go ahead and add that little star image. So image, and then looks like our image is called star. All right. So let's see what that looks like. Great. Now let's go ahead and start designing this div. So I'm going to actually give it a class. So I'm going to name this class equals pull quote. And now up here, we're going to go dot pull quote and start adding in those style things. So the first thing that you'll see is probably the width. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the width first. So width 300 pixels. Let's look at that. So see, it already is just affecting that. And then it looks like the font is Verdana, but that was already inherited from the body, so we just need to change the font color. So color white. Alright. So now you won't be able to see it for a minute, but that's because it's white. And then the background color. So let's change the background color. And that is 993333. Alright, so now we have a nice background color around that. And then we also added padding and margin around the text. So, actually before I do that, I'm noticing that my star is kind of above this and they're not really starting on the same line like I want them to. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to move this image into the p tag. So here, down in my HTML, I'm going to grab that image and I'm just going to put it inside my p tag. See if that does what we want it to. Okay, great. And now, let's see, it says it has padding around the text, a pad to make room for the graphic, and a left margin to move it to the right side of the screen. Well, I'm going to go ahead and add the left margin first, because that'll be the easiest. So if we go back to dot pull quote, and we say margin left, and then do something like, I don't know, 500 pixels, let's see what that does. Now you can see it moved it to the edge. I don't necessarily want it to be 500, maybe let me do 450. Alright, that looks pretty good. And now I want padding around the content itself, like all of the content. So let's go ahead and hit padding is, let's see what 20 pixels looks like. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then let's see, pad to make room for the graphic. So here, maybe we want to say I'm going to go ahead and do dot pull quote again, but this time I only want to target the image within the pull quote. So I'm going to go pull quote image, and then let's give it some margin, some additional margin. Let's see what that does. Okay, that pushes it in more. Maybe I don't want margin. Let me try padding on that. Okay, that looks pretty good. The other thing that I'm noticing is I have a lot more padding on the top than I do on the bottom. So I think up here I'm actually going to go padding bottom, and I'm going to make this 10 pixels instead of 20. Oh, sorry, not padding bottom, padding top. There we go. That's pretty good. So that is pretty much the lab. Once you're done with it, if you just go ahead and save your changes to the HTML document, make sure you close it out, and then just zip this file back up and submit that as a zip file, and that's all there is to it.